Hoyle, Chief Executive at AELP. Interesting morning this morning at our conference, or our in-tray conference as we call it, which is really trying to focus in on what needs to be done tomorrow within the overall policy framework which we have a reasonable view of. So we're not dwelling today on the great big macro 5-year vision things. We're looking at what's ahead of us now and what we should be doing, and had a really great morning. What's come out of it? I think it's two main things so far. One is this simplification flexibility agenda, which of course providers and representing providers, AELP, have been banging on about for some time. And we've heard an awful lot from the three government departments represented this morning, DWP, BIS and DFE, that they seem to mean business on this. And they really are looking at simplification. Interesting though that they made the point that simplification means there's a level of rough justice around the corner. You can't have a very, very detailed funding regime for this particular person, that if you're going to have something simple, it tends to be average. And I think it's a real challenge for providers there. It's, you know, careful what we ask for. But I think on balance, we're still very happy for our simplification, but there's going to be some real issues in there. I think there's been a good discussion on that this morning. The other one is flexibility. And of course, flexibility was offered to us last Christmas, coming on board August just past, only 6 months ago, and suddenly we had a flexible budget. And it's quite interesting that already we've now got funding agencies and departments sort of almost criticising us for the number of providers who've not actually accessed that flexibility yet. And it's an interesting challenge there. And I do think there is a case to say that more providers ought to be a bit bolder in moving into territories where they have the real potential to deliver, especially with the unemployed. And I think there are some providers who are still a little bit edgy. They don't quite believe it. They're a bit worried about doing something which looks right, but then the auditors come back 6 months later and say it doesn't quite fit the rules, we'll have the money back, which of course is the culture of the regime we've been in for many a long year. And we've now got the government telling us, well, no, it's different now. You go out there, find out what it is your community, your employers need. And as long as you can make it quite clear that this is what they need and you deliver what they need, you can keep the money. And at the moment, I think there's a sort of a confidence thing in there. And our line within AELP, having listened to all this, is it's not risk-free, but I think, and we've heard this morning, providers really need to be a bit bolder, some of them, and get out there and broaden their wares. That said, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I think there's got to be a realistic explanation. If you're changing your product line, you're changing your business strategy. Hang on, you don't just wake up one morning and say, we'll start that Monday week. So there's got to be some realism there. But I think the message has come across, there's scope for a bit more boldness and confidence on the part of providers. Having said that, there is another side, legitimate side to that particular debate. It's absolutely right that some providers who have majored on apprenticeships are very, very good on apprenticeships. We've had some great figures out this week with completion rates going up still further from a very high level, and we've had satisfaction results back from apprentices and from employers. So we're doing a really good job. A lot of providers are going to say, that's the job we do. We're really, really good at it. We want to carry on doing it, and let's develop and expand within it. And I have to say, given the priority given to apprenticeships by the government, I think the government are going to be quite happy if some of the really top-class apprenticeship providers stick with delivering apprenticeships. So I think there's a very good case as well for some providers to say, look, we know our business, we're good at it. So it's not everyone should suddenly say we'll do everything and be turned into private sector or third sector colleges, you know, with a massive portfolio. There is a case that many will rightly want to stay reasonably narrow. Fine. On balance though, I suspect there's probably more than currently have taken the plunge, more providers who could reasonably say, I think we can actually do a broader job here. So an interesting debate. And in the middle of that debate of flexibility and simplicity is something which we're now shorthanded is the black box. We've taken the terminology from DWP, And black box is basically a flexible box of delivery, which is handed, the money is handed with a black box to the provider, and saying, look, the money's in the black box, you go out and design what needs to be done, which is right for this person, for that person, and so on. DWP have very much been the lead. That's the way that their contracts under the work programme are geared up. They have got a very, very flexible budget and being told to use their expertise to do what the individuals in their charge need. So DWP have got hold of it. It's coming strong through BIS and their adult skills budget. We're moving into greater flexibility, not quite as far forward, but that's happening. Up until this morning, our big grouse was it seems to be a concept foreign to DFE, who still have got a very traditional, rigid regime. Now, we've heard this morning that there are increasing flexibilities, especially under the foundation learning budget for 16 to 18-year-olds not yet ready for an apprenticeship. We've been asking for that, and they really are telling us that they've given us what we've asked for, and it's our fault now for not using it. So there's an interesting debate there, but they're a really strong message that flexibilities have been opened up, and we're getting a bit close to it. But in actual fact, right at the end of the morning, when we were starting to get underneath this new youth contract concept, the speaker from DFE, not from YPALA, not from the funding regime, but from the policy making end of DFE, came in and said that they are working up the details. Oh, and by the way, Graham, we've emailed you this morning to come and sit on the group looking at the specification, we'll take up that offer, to actually put out a new strand for 16 to 18-year-olds, and they use the term black box, which is very flexible and critically for us, includes a focus on getting these people into work. It's been a real criticism of ours that DFE have not moved away from their traditional educational priority of getting people qualified. Nothing wrong with that, but there's been a whacking great big full stop at the end of it. Get them qualifications. No, get them qualifications. We'll pay for qualifications. If they don't get the qualifications, we'll take the money away. Suddenly, I've heard this morning, under the Youth Contract Initiative, they are going to put out to tender behind a specification yet to be delivered, and we're going to have a say in that, something which looks like a black box for 16 to 18-year-olds, which is geared to getting them qualified and employed. Now, that's as much as we know. I think it's a massively important and exciting move forward, not only in its own right, because I think it would do real good, but also in actually starting to move to a much more coherent policy position between these three critically important departments, where we've seen DFE, to be honest, lagging a bit behind. And that was a bit of news right at the end of the morning, and you can tell from my interview I'm really quite excited about this. I hope I won't be disappointed, but I think a real opportunity now to get even more coherence. And I think great challenges for our providers. Be bold, be flexible. I think we can take that approach across the three departments, not just the two. But yeah, hang on, if you're a top quality apprenticeship provider doing a darn good job and you want to stick with it, that sounds pretty good as well.